J. Cole's legacy is officially done for. People are saying he's been terrified by Kendrick Lamar for a whole decade, and the evidence just dropped is absolutely devastating. This whole situation has the internet spinning because the Big Three was never real. It was a cover-up. What detectives found will destroy everything you thought you knew about rap. Everybody thought they knew the full story about J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar. We were told it was mutual respect, two legends just doing their own thing on parallel tracks. That was the version the industry fed us. That was the polite lie everyone repeated to keep the peace. But now, new forensic investigations by the internet have got the whole narrative twisting into something dark. Forget the brothers angle. This isn't about friendship, it's about fear. We are looking at a decade-long strategy of calculated avoidance. Cole wasn't just busy, the streets are saying he was running. The evidence isn't hidden in some vault, it's been right in our faces the whole time, hiding in plain sight. We're talking about suspiciously missing moments, convenient timing, and moves that look less like artistic choices and more like survival tactics. The internet is waking up to the fact that one artist has been strategically dodging the kind of smoke that ends careers. And honestly, once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. The hierarchy we pretended didn't exist, it's real and it's brutal. Let's get straight into the evidence because what fans just uncovered is straight up disturbing. The investigation begins with what the internet is calling the 19 proximity events. These are documented moments where Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole existed within 1 degree of musical collaboration. We're talking same studio sessions, same producers, same festivals, and somehow, inexplicably, 0 times resulted in a genuine verse-for-verse war. Not once, not ever. Think about the statistical impossibility of that. In a genre built on competition, 2 guys at the top never actually spar? Online detectives took this to a new level, digging into every detail like they on some CSI mission. They started studying the timelines, and high power becomes Exhibit A in this courtroom of public opinion. When both artists touched the same sonic universe, the contrast wasn't subtle, it was seismic. Kendrick didn't just deliver bars, he delivered a prophecy that people are still quoting years later like scripture. Cole delivered competence, respectability, the kind of verse that makes you nod but doesn't make you submit. But it gets even crazier. We have to talk about Black Friday. This is where the investigation turns savage. 2 titans swapping each other's instrumentals should have been the definitive answer to every debate. Instead, it became the most damning evidence of the gap. Internet analysts armed with lyrical density calculators, quotable rate algorithms, and replay value metrics started running the numbers like they were solving a murder. And folks online swear by these results. Listen to this breakdown. The alleged metrics show Kendrick hitting a 78% lyrical compression rate with 11 career-defining quotables in just 45 seconds. Meanwhile, Cole is sitting at a 61% compression with maybe 4 memorable lines across the entire verse. The reaction wasn't close, it was a massacre. People didn't just prefer Kendrick's verse, they treated it like a natural disaster that changed the atmospheric pressure of hip-hop forever. Cole's verse got the dreaded label, respectable. And that word, that's where careers could die in slow motion. And for anyone who doesn't know, look at the Tale of Two Cities remix. Fans are slowing down the frames, zooming in on the delivery, analyzing the breath control. They claim you can hear the difference in hunger. Kendrick sounds like he's starving, Cole sounds like he's full. That distinction is what the internet is feasting on right now. The detectives went deeper. They started pulling up old tweets, old interviews, correlating dates. They found that every time the pressure for a battle peaked, Cole would drop a project that was introspective, a project that stepped away from the ring. Is that artistic growth or is that a tactical retreat? The timeline is suspicious. Every time Kendrick sharpened his blade, Cole put his shield up. And let's look at the features. Kendrick hops on a track, he tries to murder everyone involved. Big Sean, Jay Electronica, Drake, he aims for the head. Cole hops on a track, he tries to uplift, he tries to bond. And while that's noble, the internet is saying it's also safe. It's a way to avoid the direct comparison of who killed who. If you're helping everyone, nobody wants to hurt you. It's a defense mechanism disguised as benevolence. Fans are pointing to the Now let's get into the motive, because this is where everything starts clicking. This isn't about talent anymore. This is about brand warfare, narrative control, and the terrifying mathematics of irreversible perception shifts. Let's expose the architecture of both empires, because once you understand the business, the silence makes perfect sense. Kendrick Lamar's brand blueprint is positioned as a prophetic force of nature with a Pulitzer Prize as his crown. When he emerges from silence, he doesn't drop music, he drops cultural earthquakes. Think pieces erupt, group chats transform into philosophy seminars. His absence becomes mythology, his silence becomes pressure that builds until the entire industry is suffocating under the weight of anticipation. He is the enigma. He is the one who speaks only when he has something to destroy or create. On the other side, you have JCole's brand blueprint, the people's champion, the relatable genius, the artist who makes you feel like you're sitting in the studio watching greatness unfold in real time. His power comes from accessibility, from making elite-level artistry feel human. He's the rapper you defend because defending him feels like defending yourself. He's the guy riding a bike in NYC. He is the guy playing pro basketball in Africa. He is grounded. But here's the devastating truth internet investigators uncovered. These brands cannot coexist in the same combat zone without one being permanently subordinated to the other. Because when you force Kendrick's moment domination energy into direct collision with Cole's consistency-based excellence, the narrative doesn't split evenly, it collapses into hierarchy. Think about it. That kind of fall-off hits different. If Kendrick undeniably outshines Cole on one true, inescapable bar-for-bar collision, it doesn't just become a feature, it becomes a cultural timestamp that follows Cole for the rest of his career. Every achievement afterward gets poisoned with the shadow question. Yeah, but remember when Kendrick watched him? That's not a loss. That's a career-altering narrative prison. Put all that together, it looks like the perfect recipe for avoidance. The motive becomes crystal clear. Cole has built an empire on being arguably the best. As long as the battle never happens, the argument can exist. The moment the battle happens, the argument ends. And for Cole, the argument is more valuable than the truth. And it gets worse for them. The industry knows this. Labels know this. Why do you think the joint album never dropped? Financial analysts online are speculating that a definitive loss for Cole would devalue his touring power, his merch sales, his entire god-tier status. Being number 2 is profitable, but being proven number 2 is a discount. Let's look at the history here. We've seen this before. Jay-Z and Nas. When Ether dropped, it took Nas years to recover commercially, and Jay-Z had to pivot his entire persona. But they were enemies. Cole and Kendrick are friends, and that friendship is the ultimate shield. You can't battle your brother, right? That's the convenient excuse that has protected Cole's legacy for 10 years. But the internet isn't buying the brotherhood defense anymore. They're calling it a business arrangement, a non-aggression pact. I won't expose you if you don't expose me. But Kendrick doesn't need the pact. Kendrick thrives in the war. Cole is the one who needs the peace treaty. And look at the trajectory. Kendrick takes 5 years off and comes back as a savior. Cole drops consistently and gets called boring by the haters. The jealousy angle has to be considered. Not malicious jealousy, but professional envy. Knowing that your peer can disappear and still matter more than you do when you're working overtime. That stings. That creates a complex. So what does Cole do? He pivots. He starts rapping about being the middle child. He starts rapping about being at peace with not being the greatest. He lowers the bar for himself so he can clear it easily. He changes the definition of victory from dominance to happiness. And while that's healthy for a human, it's a surrender for a competitor. The motive is survival. JCole knows that in the Colosseum of public opinion, the crowd wants blood, and he knows his blood is the most likely to be spilled. So he stays in the locker room, he gives speeches, he coaches the younger players, he does everything except step into the ring with the one gladiator who can take his head off. And honestly, can you blame him? Look at what happened to Drake. Look at what happens when you fly too close to the sun.
Cole saw the heat radiating off Kendrick and decided to stay in the shade. It's a smart business move. It's a brilliant branding strategy. But as a rap fan, it's a tragedy. It's the Super Bowl that never was. It's the fight of the century that got canceled because one fighter decided the purse wasn't worth the concussion. The brand protection conspiracy is the only logical explanation for why two guys who claim to love the sport refuse to play the game. They aren't protecting the friendship. They are protecting the asset. And JCole is the asset that is most at risk of depreciation.
But here's the part that really hits different. Strip away the bars and beats and you're left with something more tragic. Two different survival strategies being judged by a culture that worships danger over discipline. We have to talk about the human cost of this mythology. JCole chose control, precision, and peace. He built an empire on being the guy who stays himself despite the fame. He tries to be a good father, a good friend, a role model, and the internet punishes him for it. Kendrick chose chaos, not reckless chaos, but the kind of uncomfortable truth-telling that makes people shift in their seats because it doesn't ask for permission to devastate you. Hip-hop fans will love you for being calm, but they'll worship you for being willing to burn the entire room down just to win the moment. And that's Cole's impossible position. Every act of restraint gets rewritten as fear. Every moment of respect gets translated as he knows he'd lose. Every silence becomes a confession. Imagine carrying that burden. Imagine waking up every day, looking at your platinum plaques, looking at your sold-out arenas, and knowing that millions of people think you are a fraud simply because you won't fight your friend. That's messed up. That's somebody's legacy being eroded not by what they did, but by what they didn't do. Every accomplishment he has is shadowed by an unspoken comparison. Every compliment he gets is followed by, "But he never did it to Kendrick." Meanwhile, Kendrick doesn't even have to speak on it. His quiet becomes a weapon. His absence becomes a smirk that the internet projects onto him like he's playing 4D chess while everyone else is playing checkers. The one who got caught up in the middle of all this is the fan who just wants to believe in the big three. They feel betrayed. But Cole? He feels the weight of an entire culture demanding he step onto a landmine. You can see it in his eyes in interviews. The fatigue, the frustration of trying to explain that peace isn't weakness. But the internet doesn't speak the language of peace. It only speaks the language of war. This isn't just about rap beef. It's about the pressure to perform masculinity and dominance 24/7. Cole tried to opt out of the toxic side of competition, and instead of being applauded, he's being analyzed like a crime scene. That's the tragedy. The good guy is finishing last because he refuses to become the villain the story demands. Now, this whole situation gets even crazier when you realize the second wave of evidence isn't about songs anymore. It's about patterns that fans claim they can map with terrifying precision. The internet detectives have moved from lyrical analysis to behavioral psychology, and what they found is the blueprint. Here is the alleged 4-step strategy that Cole uses to neutralize the threat. Step 1. The culture starts demanding the clash. The noise gets too loud. Step 2. Both artists show mutual respect. This is the smokescreen. They take a picture together. They mention each other in a positive light. Step 3, instead of collision, we get a safe configuration, a hook, a beat swap, a "we're brothers" speech at a concert. Step 4, the definitive record never materializes. The energy dissipates, the threat is managed. Fans transformed into data analysts with zero credentials but infinite confidence started posting charts, feature density comparisons, collaboration overlap timelines, festival proximity analysis, even mapping whose names appeared in whose interviews and how they were discussed. The most damaging claim? Kendrick and Cole have been within 1 degree of collaboration at least 19 times. 0 resulted in a real verse trade. That's not coincidence, that's strategy. And let's talk about the insider info that is blowing up the forums right now. We're hearing about the alleged studio whispers. Multiple sources claim that during the 2014-2016 era, when both artists were at their commercial peaks, there were at least 3 separate attempts to create a definitive collaboration that would settle the debate.
According to these whispers, producers and A&Rs allegedly shut down the sessions because the risk-reward calculation didn't favor both parties equally. One particularly sinister rumor suggests that a completed verse trade existed at one point, but was shelved after internal listening sessions revealed that the gap in moment impact was too wide to release without creating permanent narrative damage to one artist's brand positioning. Basically, the tape was too hot to handle, so they buried it. Then we have the interview pattern. This is forensic analysis of conversation. Internet investigators claim they've identified a specific pattern in how J. Cole discusses Kendrick versus how he discusses other top-tier rappers. When asked about artists he knows he can spar with, like Lil Baby or 21 Savage, his tone allegedly shifts to playful aggression and competitive confidence. He talks about smoking them, he talks about killing the verse. But when Kendrick's name appears, the language transforms into what analysts call reverence deflection. Phrases like, "That's my brother, that's a genius, I love what he does." The aggression evaporates, the competition disappears. The most damaging observation? In over 47 documented interviews where Kendrick was mentioned, Cole allegedly never once used language suggesting he could or would out-rap him in a direct collision. That's not maturity to internet prosecutors, that's calculated avoidance. And let's talk about the festival proximity theory. Fans have mapped every major festival appearance from 2013 to 2025 where both artists were on the same lineup. The claim? In 11 such events, they were never placed in direct performance proximity, where back-to-back sets would force immediate comparison. They are always separated by days or stages. Coincidence or industry-level narrative management? It gets deeper. The feature economics. Both artists have collaborated with dozens of the same producers, appeared on tracks with overlapping artist rosters, and existed in the same creative ecosystems. Yet the one configuration that would definitively answer every question, same beat, same topic, sequential verses with no hiding, has never materialized, despite being the most demanded collab in modern hip-hop history. The question that won't die. In an era where everybody features with everybody, how did two artists with this much overlap never give the culture the one record that would shut down the debate forever? The absence is louder than any verse either has ever written. Fans are saying the pattern is undeniable. Every time Kendrick steps left, Cole steps right. They are magnetic poles that repel each other, and the force pushing them apart isn't nature, it's fear. Fear of the finality, fear of the scoreboard, fear of the truth.
Let's keep it real. Everything is speculation until the track drops, but a vicious side debate has erupted that explains why this matters so much. It's the performance versus presence debate. Is rap about consistency or about creating moments that become history? Cole is the artist who could out-rap 95% of the game on demand. He is a machine. He's reliable. You know what you're getting. Kendrick is the artist who makes one verse feel like a cultural event that people will reference in documentaries 20 years from now. Fans dissect tone like it's forensic evidence. Kendrick's delivery sounds like warning shots, even when he's not dissing anyone. There is a paranoia in his voice, an urgency. Cole's delivery sounds like conversation, even when he's flexing at maximum capacity. So when both occupy the same sonic space, audiences instinctively gravitate toward whoever makes the stakes feel life or death. That's why the word witnessing keeps appearing in these debates. Not listening, not enjoying, witnessing. Like you're watching something that will be referenced as a before and after moment in hip-hop history. When Kendrick raps, you feel like you're watching a car crash in slow motion. When Cole raps, you feel like you're watching a master mechanic fix an engine. Both are impressive, but only one makes you hold your breath. And honestly, the internet is buzzing about the studio whispers again. Let's circle back to that because it's crucial. The rumor that producers warned it would end the debate forever is fascinating. It implies that the industry protects the big three concept because it's profitable. If there is a clear number one, the other two lose value. By keeping it vague, by keeping it as a debate, everyone eats. So maybe Cole isn't running from Kendrick, maybe he's running with him, running a play. A play to keep us arguing, keep us clicking, and keep us streaming. But even if that's true, it still puts Cole in the passenger seat. It still makes him the one who needs the narrative protection. the side stories about their crews are wild too. Dreamville versus TDE, even the camps seem to move differently. TDE moves like a militia, Dreamville moves like a family reunion. The energy is just fundamentally incompatible for war, and that incompatibility is what the fans are mistaking for cowardice. But let's not forget the Control verse aftermath again. The fact that Cole's response was Let Nods Down remix, a song about apologizing, that hits different in retrospect. It set the tone for the next decade. While Kendrick was claiming the throne, Cole was apologizing to the elders. Two different mindsets, two different trajectories. And now, 10 years later, those lines have never crossed. And this story is still unfolding with way bigger implications than just one incident. What we're seeing here is how 2026 internet culture transforms art into blood sport and then punishes artists for refusing to bleed on command. This transcends Kendrick versus Cole. The culture demands authenticity, dominance, and proof, but simultaneously demands maturity, positivity, and no beef. Artists get trapped in an impossible paradigm. Battle and you're messy. Don't battle and you're scared. Show respect and it's fake. Show confidence and you're arrogant. Once the internet assigns your identity, danger, or control, everything you do gets weaponized through that lens. Kendrick goes silent, power move. Cole goes silent, avoidance. Same action, opposite verdicts. Why? Because the narrative has already been written. The timeline has already decided who the hero is and who the sidekick is. This is the new reality of perception economics. The story isn't what you actually did, it's what the timeline can convince people you did. And in 2026, the timeline writes in permanent ink. We are watching the real-time destruction of nuance. You were either the GOAT or you are a fraud. There is no middle ground. Cole's situation is a wild example, but it's also a warning for anybody with a brand. The more you try to be everything to everyone, the more you leave yourself open to being nothing to anyone. By refusing to define his standing against Kendrick, the internet defined it for him, and they defined it as inferior. This is about the weaponization of narrative. The fans aren't just consumers anymore. They are active participants in destroying legacies. They want the crash. They want the burn. And if you refuse to give it to them, they will burn you instead. 9. Final collapse and speculation. Here's the devastating conclusion internet investigators have reached. The Big Three was never a triangle. It was always a ladder, and Kendrick has been standing at the top the entire time because he doesn't need to compete frequently. He just needs one verse that people can't stop repeating, analyzing, and building mythology around for the next 5 years. The simplest theory is the most brutal. If JCole truly believed he could dominate Kendrick Lamar in the direct collision, the record would already exist. Not as a rumor, not as a maybe someday, as a real song with 2 verses and no escape routes. But it doesn't exist. And the internet has filled that silence with a verdict that's now harder to erase than concrete. The most savage speculation is that every year without that definitive record adds more weight to the theory. Every interview where Cole praises Kendrick adds pressure. Every Kendrick drop where the culture collectively bows adds pressure. Until the debate stops being who's better and becomes who's willing. And the internet has decided willingness equals superiority. The conversation is exploding in real time, and every new Kendrick or Cole moment will be dissected like crime scene evidence. The question that's destroying comment sections right now, did J. Cole strategically avoid the fire that would have exposed the hierarchy everyone was too polite to acknowledge? Or are fans forcing a war that never needed to happen? Drop your most brutal take in the comments right now, no holding back. What's the most devastating Kendrick moment that proves the gap? Hit that like button if you think this investigation just exposed something the industry wanted buried. Subscribe and turn on notifications because we're tracking every twist in this saga, and the next development could change everything. Remember, in hip-hop, silence can be strategy, but the internet treats it like a confession, and this confession is about to get louder. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.